I think of the life of a miner who must work all his day underground, where his lamplight is all that will shine there, and it's dark and it's damp all around. It is 2 or 3 miles to the coal face, and the tunnel is jagged and low, but he cannot find work on the surface, so it's down in the mines he must go.
And we're joined next by Vincent, Lynam and Gerry Spellman as we look back on their careers in the mines here in Rigna over a period of time. Vincent, I'll start off with yourself. You would have come into the mines here back in the 1960s.
62, 63. I was just around 15 years of age.
And did you come straight from Spellman secondary school at that stage, Vincent?
Straight from school, you could say. A short while after that, straight to the pit.
Was it a big decision to leave secondary school and come to the mines? And what was the reaction like at home when you told your family that you were going to be taking up a job in the mines?
Really was that when you left school at 14 years, there wouldn't be much money around at the time. And you really had to look around and say, well, it's time I started making a few pounds for myself.
Yeah.
Because your parents had done a lot for you at that stage. And there was no way you could just sit around and let them do more for you. You had to get out and do it. So I went to Rock Hill in that 62, 63, and I went on the day shift. And I remember first walking in with the big fellas, that's the older miners, and walking down into the tunnel. And the first thing I got was the darkness and the silence. And you'd hear the noise. You'd hear the chippings falling and all that. And you'd say to the older miner, what's that? And they'd say, well, sonny, that's only the mountain settling. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Was it reassuring, Vincent, to have those experienced miners with you when you'd hear noises like that and you'd hear maybe creaking and it's your first time underground? Your mind could start running away a little bit with you.
Well, unless you had the support from them, but you relied on them and they were genuine, hard-working people. And you could bet your life on them at the time. Well, I had my brother Tommy with me on that. He was alive that time.
Yeah. The whole situation when fellas were coming into the mines like that, one thing I presume that you learned very quickly was the work ethic that was there.
Well, I moved on then helping out the drawers. Rock Hill was very unpredictable. Like you had the coal fall at the rock in Rock Hill, and you could go up a steep hill or you could go down a steep hill. And then if it went down, there had to be a putter to help the drawer out with the hutch. Yeah. And that's what we started at first, more along me.
And the putter is going to be helping you, obviously, going up the hill. Coming down the other side then and trying to keep control of the hutch. Well, was that difficult?
That was difficult because you had to lie back sit on your backside, you could say, and hold on your best, because you couldn't afford to let the hutch go too fast. Because if you let the hutch go too fast, it was liable to hop off the railings. Yeah. And if it hopped off the railings, then that was your problem, because there could be 600 to 800 in that hutch. And if it hopped off, there was no one to help you. So you had to get in under it, and you had to lift her up onto the railings, on the side you were on. And then you had to pull yourself out to the front and lift her back up on the track.
Which was no easy task.
That was fair weight. Yeah. But that was it. You had to do that or be there, some of the two. And that was very heavy enough now.
Coming from Ballyfernin, Vincent, to the mines, what was the mode of transport? Was it walking cars or pit lorry?
Well, I never went to pit lorry. We walked a lot at the time, across the near cut. On the side of the mountain, we used to walk across that way and back that way. And of course then when we got our head up a few pounds, you know, we got a bit of a care. Shouldn't be great, but that was our transport then, like, going to them.
So you'd have been walking what a lot of people would know now as the Miner's Way.
Yes.
For your first time in the pit, maybe for the first few weeks, when you came out and you were met by the daylight and the views and the scenery of the Miner's Way compared to being underground for the day, what was that experience like?
Well, the first thing you seen when you were coming out near the surface, you looked ahead like that, and you seen like the bright, this is like a stair, and the more you come out, then it would widen, and then you actually come out into the open space. Then, where you had to adjust your eyesight down from the darkness to the brightness, and that it'll take just a few, not very long, but you start to come then. But you'd be very warm in there. You'd be steaming, like there'd be steam rising out here. You'd be your body would be very hot in there working. If you're going hard in there, you'd be fairly hot coming out. You couldn't afford to let yourself cool down then because you'd keep moving onto your care and get home as quickly as you could.
And if it was the thing that, say, on a winter's day, you wouldn't be long cooling down by coming out of it?
Well, you wouldn't die, but you would be a little while, but you'd just back down to it again.
Gerry, you would have started off a couple of stints in summers when you were going to school, so you got a flavour of what it was like over a period of time, say 2 or 3 months, before you came in full time.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I started off on what they called the back shift that time. It was 4 to 12. When they would be brushing the roads at night, and I started drawing from brushers, you know, and that kind of tempered me in on what the whole setup was like. So I did 2 stints of summer holidays in it on the back shift, and then when I did the Leaving Cert in 1976 in September, I went full time to it, but it was on the day shift, and we went then to a place called, there was coal in it, 18 inches and more, 20 inches. It was called the Wet Hollow, and there was about 20 drawers there.
What was the name of the pit, Gerry?
Rock Hill.
Rock Hill as well,
Yeah,
right, okay.
Rock Hill as well. So there was about 20 drawers there and shovelers, and we all made a lot of money in it at that time because there was no place that was less than maybe 28, 30 hutches of coal in their place in the day, and like that was good money for young fellas and shovelers as well.
And was it a difficult decision to make as a young lad that a lot of maybe your friends in school, classmates, would have maybe dropped out of school after, say, the group cert or the inter cert at the time and maybe come straight into the mines? You took the wiser decision, some would say, of staying there doing the Leaving Cert. But when you got the taste of that money in the summer, that must have been hard to go back to school. But I suppose equally so, you got a taste of what the work was like as well, and what would be involved every day if the pits stayed open for what could have been your working career. So was it a big decision to go full time?
It was and it wasn't. The money was the big attraction, you see.
Yeah.
And as Vincent said there earlier on, there wasn't much money in any house at that stage. And like my father never had a car. All he had was a bicycle, and it was my dream when I was young to have a car, and that dream came true when I went to the mines and got money. And I was only, I'd say, maybe 6 months, 8 months in it till I had the price of a bad car, if you know what I mean.
I know. Then, yeah.
And it was a car anyway, and it got me around.
Yeah. Getting to work before that, was the pit lorry that would collect?
No, it was a Honda 50.
Honda 50?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Which a lot of lads at that stage had.
That's what I'm saying. They were very popular. I remember as a young lad in the area at the time, you'd see rows of these bikes, especially on a Sunday.
Correct, yeah. Outside Flynn's.
Correct, yeah.
And if you were making more money, then you might go on to a Honda 90 or a Honda 100 or, something like that.
You kept trying to better yourself.
You kept trying to better yourself, yeah. You had more power as well, you see.
Yeah. Vincent, when you think back of it, and for families, and as Gerry mentioned there, money wouldn't have been too plentiful in the area, but yet the mines supported, and you could say probably reared many families in a wide geographical area.
It reared everyone. All the Rigna, Ballyfernan, Drumshambo, all around, back down to Ballinamore, back down to Drumahare. All them men came from them areas.
Yeah.
And it kept all them businesses alive. Them Shambo was going well, Boyle, Ballyfernan, Keedew, and that was all money coming from the mines, really. Because there was really nothing else around here, only the mines at that time.
Yeah. It supported so many businesses, Gerry, and the point was made earlier in some of our interviews. If you took Drumshambo, for instance, you had so many hardware, drapery shops, obviously food shops as well in the area, so many pubs. It supported the local towns and villages financially and the local economy. It was a big driver in the local economy.
Sure, it kept Drumshambo alive. Like, all you had in Drumshambo that time was Laird's. And it was a fairly big employer, but the money that time in Laird's wouldn't have been near what you're talking about, what was in the mines. And when the miners and their wives came to town on Saturday nights, the men, of course, went to the pubs and the women did the shopping. But like they kept the town alive, and you know they kept the shops open. Yeah, and there was lots of shops in at that time.
And unfortunately, after the mines closed in 1990, an awful lot of those smaller shops disappeared.
They disappeared, and that was the reason why.
Something similar in Ballyfernan, Vincent.
Yes.
There was a lot of pubs in Ballyfernan during the mines
There
as well.
was 2 lounges, and there was 6, 7, 8 pubs. And over weekend they were all full and all going well. Now, at the moment, we have 1 pub that's big come down. I suppose, in a way, we can't forget about the women, or the big part the women played in the mining. We couldn't talk enough about them. Because the wives and the mothers and the families and all, they had to put up with a lot of, we'll say, column, dust, you name it.
The washing of the clothes was tough.
And that time there was no showers or baths like what is now. So it was really, they played a huge part. And we can never forget about them.
You combined your careers in mining with a bit of farming.
Yes.
And a big contrast as well, I presume, coming out of the mines. And when we look at the land around here, there's a lot of walkers that will be listening and watching these interviews will be looking at the farmsteads in the locality. What was it like coming out and going farming after a day in the mines?
Well, that was putting more pressure on the miner in a way, like, because really the miner done 2 days' work. Take a miner that was going to mining on the back shift at 4 o'clock. He'd be up early in the morning. He'd have 1 day's work nearly done, you know, roundabout in his own way of work. Then he'd have to get ready around 3 o'clock, and he'd have to head for the mines. So as the night went on, it took its toll on the miners, in a way, because as they got tired as time went on, you know.
Absolutely.
And they weren't just rested enough for it. And that meant then that they'd be taking in more of the dust and more of the, you know.
And probably health consequences then over a period of time.
But,
Gerry, talk to me a little bit about farming and for the miners. So many of the miners would have had what would be known as small farms as well, and they would have farmed away at that. And for some would say it was almost like a release mechanism, almost like a hobby. But as Vincent rightly pointed out, you know, there's nothing easy about farming either.
There's nothing easy about farming, of course, we know that, and especially in this area with the bad land and everything like that. But in my situation, my father would have had about maybe 6 cows. So that meant that he had 6 weanlings for sale at different times of the year, maybe 2 in March or April and 2 in June or July, and coming on maybe in October, November then, which would be coming up to Christmas, he might have 2 more, you know. So that supplemented the coal mining wage, and as well as that, kept the family alive.
Yeah. Vincent, you would have been involved in sheep farming a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
From a very young age.
Yeah.
And I was about, I suppose, 8 or 9.
And again, the land round here, typical mountain sheep farming territory.
But sure, as far as sheep farming, as far as farming is going, like, it would keep no family going.
Yeah.
Or never did.
Yeah.
It was a help.
It was a help.
When the creameries was going, local creameries was going, they kept, it played a big part in. But when they disappeared, it didn't.
Yeah.
Because why was, there was a lot of men milking, we'll say 8 or 9 or 10 cows, and they'd be sending their milk to the local creamery.
Yeah.
And then nearly all the creameries had a small shop or some sort of co-op shop, and they'd be getting their food stuff from there and all that. And the milk you were paying for that then, in the end of the month then, when the check would be coming up, the milk would kick in and pay for a lot of what they brought out of it.
And in many ways, you could say that the mines probably supported an awful, kept an awful lot of small farmers and farms taken over.
Oh yes. So without the mines, they would never have, a lot of them would have gone away to England and that have gone.
Talk to me a little bit about what the camaraderie and the sense of development or the fun would have been like maybe in the mines at break times, or some of the stories, some of the highlights or memories that you would take out of it, positive memories that you would take out of it. I presume you got to know the guys you were working with very well.
Well, very well now. I always think about the miners I worked with. I can never forget about them. All the men that has gone, the great men that has gone. And you can never forget about them. Because when you met a miner, if you met him the second time, he always knew you again. And they all knew one another. And then they'd come out to we call the centre where they joined together. And all the gossip, the whole area, what was happened the day before, they'd have it with them back, and they'd have talked about it.
Which was almost as good as the Herald or Observer at the time. They got the news probably first.
All the news of the whole area would be there. That would go on for about roughly half hour, 3/4, and then it was back to work again.
Lincoln mining and farming again, and I've often noticed it with my own father from his time working in the mines, and when he'd have gone to the Merchants and Drumshanbo, the likes of yourself and other miners that he'd have known from the time, there was that great sense of a camaraderie between them, and they always made sure that they had a chat, they talked back on old times and whatever. Those friendships seem to stick the test of time.
Well, up to this day, if you meet a miner, you'll always go and shake, if you didn't meet them for a long time, shake hands with them, and have the air, and you'll have the crack with them. And they still that bond is there all the time.
Yeah.
The miners, if they meet one another, they know one another, and they work so closely together, and you'll have the crack, but unfortunately, so many of them gone.
Yeah. That's the sad reality of it. Gerry, I presume something similar where you are working now as a caretaker in the vocational school in Drumshanbo. You probably see a lot of sons and daughters coming through the system there of fellas that you would have worked with in the mines as well, and that must bring back memories. See the next generation coming through.
Sure, it's lovely to see it. Yeah, there's a lot of the people from Rigna now that are coming to the school in Drumshanbo. I know their fathers and their grandfathers, from the coal mines, and that's the only way. Apart from that, I wouldn't know them at all.
Yeah.
But it's great to see it, and like when we were working in Rock Hill in the Wet Hollow, as I said, there were roughly around 20 drawers and 20 shovelers, and a man on the clips and a foreman and stuff like that. But the majority of the drawers were maybe under 25. And the shovelers then would be maybe from 35 up. But they were a great bunch of people, that we worked with, that I worked with. And
very hard workers.
Yeah, very hard workers, dedicated. You wouldn't meet better than them.
Yeah. And there were probably men that had a lot of principles. And maybe that was some of the reasons for the strikes over the years as well.
Yes.
Were they difficult times when the strikes had come? If they were short, probably not.
Well, the big long strike, that was the toughest on the miners.
Yeah.
That happened in 68, was it? 68, 69.
Yeah.
That was a tough time. But they got over that then. There was often then smaller bits of, in between. But that was the main one. Yeah. That was the one for the 5-day week.
That put pressure on families, I presume.
That put a lot of pressure on families. Yeah. But they stuck the pressure because there was a very, very easy way of life that time. Yeah. It wasn't as demanding as it was now, is now at the present. Yeah.
A simpler life.
A simpler life.
Not as materialistic based.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's, I think, how they survived. They weren't expecting big things.
Gerry, when you look at the current generation of students, maybe that's in the vocational school again, and the main outlet for many years was the coal mines. Do you think now some of the guys that's in there now, and obviously education has changed an awful lot, there's an awful lot more options. If the mines were still open, and this is something that has come up in a few of the interviews, would there be a problem securing the labour to keep them working if they were still open?
I believe there would, because I don't think that young people that are going now, they have better opportunities. They don't work as hard or as physical. Everything is at their fingertips now, you see, and if the coal mines were going now, it would be very difficult to get labour. Whether the immigrants would come back, I don't know. I doubt it very much. And maybe we might get Polish people or someone like that to work. Latvians, they might work on it, but I'd say that it would be a big problem.
To be a different dynamic on the workforce. Vincent, again, that's one question that we've asked a lot of people here. Would it be a career that you would have, say, encouraged, and I'll ask both of you this, your own children, grandchildren, to follow, to go in and take the mines, or would you have advised them to look at alternative careers?
Well, I think that you'd have to be really reared into the mining. Because when you went to the mining first, if you hadn't experience, if you didn't start off as a putter, and if you didn't start off as a drawer, and get that experience before you got to the coal face, you wouldn't last long. Because the dangerous part of it was then, because you had to be very careful. You had to know your stuff when you were in there, because there could be a stone there, and if you didn't see danger and put a pillar under that, you wouldn't be around long, because you'd hauled out to kill you. So I think is that if any mine stopped for a while and then it reopened again, I don't think that they'd have any miners to go in experienced enough to go in and mine coal.
True.
Because it was a craft in itself. Even handling gin and handling blasting the roads and things like that. You want to know your stuff. Because if you hadn't experience and the training into it, you wouldn't last long.
That was one interesting aspect of it, dealing with explosives. The gin like that could be dangerous. Gerry, speaking of accidents and your missus, did you ever experience anything like that?
No, I never experienced anything like that. I saw lots of falls, but there was nobody injured in them or anything like that, that I seen anyway. If there was going to be a fall, there'd be warnings given, what they used to call the slate or rock would start spitting. And you'd know that it was going to, and you'd see it loose, and you'd know that to keep away from it and avoid it.
Vincent, any near misses in your experiences?
There had to be a lot of cuts and bruises and, yourself after that. Like, you had, again, it came all down to how much experience you had and to keep out of the danger area. Or keep it secured around you. You didn't keep it secured around you as you went on. You see, they took a metre every day. They took a metre of coal, roughly. That's what we call a yard. Down times a year. The machine took a yard off the coal face annually, every day. So that meant that the mine was travelling at a yard a day. The same as if you walked out, John, in the lawn with an armour and take a yard off it every day.
You were sure to be impacting what was above you.
Well, you'd be going further away. You'd be travelling that further away you'd be going a yard every day.
And the further you'd be going in...
you'd be going in every day. You'd be going in that 1 yard further every day.
Well, no doubt about it. It was a skilled profession. It brought challenges. It was dangerous. But if you were to look back on it, how would you describe the times finally? Happy times?
Very happy.
Very happy. Gerry?
Yeah, I had very happy times in it, and there was great camaraderie with the workers, and no falling outs or anything like that. And we got the work done, and I liked it a lot.
So great memories from it. Well, look, thank you indeed for sharing your stories. Fantastic to look back on them, and plenty of good memories from the mines as well. And great to see it all preserved here at the Rigna Mining Experience while we're recording this.
Well, thanks, John.
Thanks very much, John.
Thanks very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed.
I think of the life of the miner who must work all his day underground, where his lamplight is all that will shine there, and it's dark and it's damp all around. It is 2 or 3 miles to the coal face, and the tunnel is jagged and low, but he cannot find work on the surface, so it's down in the mines he must go.